Good morning and welcome to your roundtable for the University of Louisiana Monroe game. We've got a full stack here. We've got Eric, Paul, Justin, and Ian, and we're going to get into a little bit of a review of the stuff that happened this week, and also look ahead to what this game is going to be for us. Give you our picks, and maybe if you're in there because this is a live occasion, we can answer some questions for you. So if you do have any questions and you're here with us, go ahead and throw those into the chat and we will get to those as soon as we can. One thing I want to talk about just straight out of the top here is I think this is one of those games that is getting overlooked because I don't think people are looking at the right things. And this is really something mainly for you, Paul, because I know how much you enjoy statistics and how they are often manipulated to prove a point. And I think what I'd like to do is just get to the core of some of these. So what I want to do really quickly is go through, these are what I call deep stats. And this is just a quick little overview. And obviously, if we're looking at this from the beginning there, so the average points per game for Texas is around 46.33. And then obviously University of Louisiana Monroe's 31. So that's not a big deal, right? So good. We're good. We've got an advantage for Texas. I think we're moving on pretty good. And then honestly, when you go points allowed for defense, Texas is looking pretty good too. So for the layman that is outside, I could see that most folks are just going to look at this game and they're going to pick Texas. But I think looking at this, I think we need to dig deeper. So if we think about the average punting yards per game, so Texas is only having 21 punting yards per game, and these guys are kicking at 40.3 yards. So that's an obvious advantage to people that can kick the ball far. I think that's really something that is. Oh yeah, Paul, you have something. Go ahead.
That's almost twice.
That's a good point. Thank you. No, I appreciate you being here. And if we move this further, this is a legitimate, ULM is averaging 206.5 yards per rush, and we're only doing 173. So 0.3. So again, the advantage goes to ULM there. And then this is where it gets nuts. So this stat is actually phenomenal to me because we've run a total this season of 209 offensive plays. They've only run 120.
Do you think the fact that we've played 3 games and they've played 2 plays a role in the statistic?
I'm not here to besmirch you. I think you're a really smart guy, but you're missing the point here. They're going to be tired. So they've run 209 plays and these guys have only run 120. So again,
I thought you were going to say we've run 209 promos, but plays is accurate too.
We probably have. And this is the last one that I think is really important to me is the admission acceptance rate is only 31.4% at Texas. So obviously, they are destroying us in that regard.
Who doesn't get into ULM?
That's a great question. I didn't dig that deep. I think those are more for deep questions. But I think that's good. That's the type of inquiry we're looking for here. So I appreciate you guys looking into that. Paul, is there anything in particular when you look at this game? Obviously, I don't expect you to have anything as insightful as what I just delivered. But what are some of the things that you might be looking for in a game against ULM? And this is actually, I'm going to open this up to the board. Anybody, you guys can jump on in here. And I'm going to go to the comments section and read all the mean things people have said.
Well, I have some inside info that Texas will not be starting Quinn Ewers in this game. They are starting Arnold Manson.
Okay.
Backup quarterback.
Right.
His job is to come in, not lose the game, stay within himself. Look, he's been plucked from obscurity for this moment, for this day.
Yep.
Throw your 5 or 6 attempts, maybe 5 yards past the line of scrimmage on play action.
Yep.
Control the ball, 3rd and 5 and long plus, quick kick. Yeah. Just try to let the defense win the game, play field position. Let's just try to get out with 17-7, 17-10, hard-nosed win. Let's just play fundamental football, and this Arnold Manson guy can be a hero that day.
I had not accounted for the fact that we've got a first-time starter on a quarterback. That did not go into my deep stats, and I apologize to the listeners for that. What are you seeing here, Eric? I mean, you are uncharacteristically quiet today.
Yeah, I think I lean towards the former OU quarterback having the experience advantage in General Booty. I'm not sure that's probably another thing that you could have put up in the ULM's favor.
Right.
His experience is probably going to carry the day for them. I'm regretting my 49-point victory prediction already.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This be real embarrassing for you.
Yeah, I'm probably way off on that. Should have money lined ULM the whole time, apparently.
Of course, he would say 49.
Have you all seen the over-under and the spread? The spread is Texas minus 44.5, and the over-under is 53.
Yeah. I saw that.
That's a narrow That's a narrow line.
ULM fans, we're not normally this big of jerks. We're just finally reveling in the fact that Texas is playing Texas football.
Yeah,
Sugar Father. I love Sugar Father.
This is thank you for supporting us, Sugar Daddy. I really appreciate it. All right. What do we got going here in terms of, so I know, let's get to some maybe a little bit more quality information outside of my deep stats. Eric, let's just transition a little bit to the recruiting class. How is this one shaping up this year? I know that we've had some decommits around the country that some folks have mentioned and they're keeping their eye on, but what are you hearing? What are you seeing?
I'm most focused on, well, I mean, there's one uncommitted player that everybody cares about, Michael Terry, athlete out of Alamo Heights in San Antonio. I think Texas is in a good spot there. Very versatile athlete. I'm more interested in players that are committed elsewhere that Texas is gaining traction with. In-state schools, out-of-state schools, Pacific Northwest schools, schools in the Southeast, all these sorts of areas where Texas is still making quality inroads with recruits. It's going to be a pretty interesting finish to this recruiting class. Texas only has until December 4th this year. They moved it up to make it easier with dealing with the portal and if you're Texas, dealing with the playoffs, SEC championship, that sort of thing. But it's going to be a very interesting finish to this recruiting cycle. There's a long way to go. I think that there's a path for Texas to finish with. There's a path and outside chance for the top class in the country, more likely around 3, I think is where they'll finish. They're number 6 right now. There's just a lot of big names still left on the board, and then a lot of guys that are good players that would go a long way towards filling in any gaps remaining in the class. There's a couple guys that they're just basically locks to flip at this point. And then some other ones that require more work, more wins, more hype, and just a little more time.
One of the questions that has come up here, and I don't know, I think this is kind of an interesting way of looking at this. Are there any matchups on the field, any matchups that would resemble an SEC matchup? And I'm talking by position wise.
No.
Great. Okay, I had my suspicions. I thought I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to answer that question because it was an early one. So yeah. So for those of you playing at home, there are no SEC matchups on the field today. One of the questions we got was, we have one of the deepest quarterback rooms, I think, in the country. I think it's safe to say that. Would we feel, I mean, given, and this maybe is something that you can jump in on, Ian, given your former zip code, do you think Trey Owens would be starting at Michigan right now?
Yeah, I saw somebody in the comments was hailing us from Kalamazoo, which is where Western Michigan is. It's kind of a nice little town. Maybe. I think maybe he would. It's because we'll see how Orji does now that he's the starter. I think he wasn't the starter for a reason.
It's not going to go.
Davis Warren is kind of solid, just athletically limited, and they kind of need that guy to work magic for them because they don't have a lot going on in the passing game. So I think he could maybe start for them, but I don't think he would save them. I just don't think they really just need somebody to make a few plays and avoid disastrous mistakes. And I think avoiding disastrous mistakes for a true freshman in that offense with their schedule would be pretty tough.
Yeah, to expand on Ian's point, I do actually think Trey Owens would start for them, and he would improve them, I think. I mean, Davis Warren threw 5 picks in 2 games, right? Receiver and offensive line. The offensive line is not cohesive. And the receiver position, if their 3 best receivers transferred to Texas, they would be receivers 7, 9, and 10 on our roster. I mean, that's not hyperbole. That's just like they would not see the field. They would not play. They would be running third team reps. One of them would be running fourth team reps. But I don't think we have fourth team reps. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty dire situation, and there's a number of reasons for it, but Sharon Moore is going to have to demonstrate that he can build some stuff in his program that isn't just built on Harbaugh's, fumes.
What we had a question in here I want to grab from UT Parking on some of our recruits. So you mentioned Eric, and I don't go into any details you don't want to, but when you say there's some flips you're feeling comfortable with, in what range is that? And I'll throw that to you as well, Justin. What I mean by range is that, are these known commodities, or who are these folks?
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix from like I put in the article this morning, guys that would be, stargazers only care about stars. So there would be ho-hum to some of those guys, but then some of them would definitely tickle their fancy and give them the dopamine hit that they covet. But it's not, it's not all set in stone. There's a long way to go. Chase Sims is going to be at A&M this weekend. A&M was at his game last night. Texas was at his game last night as well. The Aggies are going to try to keep him from visiting for the Mississippi State game. Everything I hear points towards him being pretty interested in taking that visit to Texas and checking things out. So we'll see. As far as Kelshawn Johnson, I scored a 60-yard touchdown on my Belleville Brahmas last night, led them to victory, unfortunately. I'm not sure, he has interest in Texas. I'm not sure Texas is pushing super hard right now. Justin might have some insight on that one. Texas is, I think if Texas takes another wide receiver, it's likely to be a numbers buster type of guy.
Justin, any thoughts on any of this? I haven't heard your accent in a good while.
The thing with Kelshawn is that, Texas liked him, but the reason he chose A&M was because Texas depth chart, because it would be so hard for him to get on the field, and he wants to play early. He wants to make an impact. He can do that a lot sooner in College Station than he can Austin. Now he's watching A&M play, and he's still seeing what's the greener grass on the other side of the fence right now. But those problems, the reason he chose A&M, are still there. And the closer you get to signing day, the less likely he's going to have the opportunity if he wanted to jump in. Texas ends up pushing, but there's a little bit of contact. I like Chase Sims in that scenario. Thank you, Nicholas, in the coverage.
And obviously one of the teams on our schedule later on is the University of Florida, who's having an outstanding season. And I really enjoyed this question, and clearly so did Justin. Justin, if you don't mind, if you haven't already, can you express some of your immediate thoughts to this question?
Yeah, bro. Nah, bro. Unless he's bringing Buff Bothwell with him, I don't think he's that intriguing. Man,
Puff.
It's gonna be the
Bothwell.
Who?
Puff
Both. Eric with the Buff Bagwell completely threw me off on that.
Puff Bothwell is the starting running back at South Alabama, and boy named Sue Theory says that's a dude you should not get in a fight with.
I think that's a fair point.
Hey, so who should be the Florida's next man up? They've got a terrible run going here lately.
I mean, the big everybody wants to throw it behind Lane. I just don't see that happening. I don't see that administration being too keen on him, and I think he's got a pretty good. I mean, at least right now they're giving him a lot of money.
It's all about NIL with Florida. If NIL can ramp back, can get to where it needs to be at Florida, that's a top 10 job. But they've had problems with that, and Kiffin has no issues with that in Oxford. So that to me is the only thing that would cause that hiccup. Florida, I remember 15, 20 years ago thinking Florida is the perfect program when it comes to football, basketball, and baseball. They won it at the top at every level, and that thing just fell off after Urban Meyer. And so I think Lane's the guy, but if the NIL's not lined up, they're going to have a harder time getting a big name than they think.
They can't let that AD make a third hire.
No.
That's crazy. I mean, that is amazing. I do think it is Kiffin, actually. I think Kiffin, I think he'd be open to it because Ole Miss is they're sort of a peak and valley program. They struck while the iron was hot with NIL. That's exactly what you should do if you're an Ole Miss level program, and they're going to pay the benefits of that this year. They're going to fall off a little cliff next year. And Kiffin understands timing is important in coaching. He's been the victim of it, and he's been the beneficiary of it. If Florida can get their ducks in a row, I think that's their modal hire. Jed Fish would be interesting from Washington. But he just signed a contract.
Right.
So I don't know how they're going to do that buyout. I don't know how that's going to work. But when a team is down, everyone gets down on the program. Texas fans, you should be aware of that dynamic. We experienced it. Texas was a top 5 job even when Charlie Strong was going 5-7 here. And Florida is a top 10 job even when they're struggling with Billy Napier.
Lane will like that they have a quarterback as long as they can stay pot committed on Lagway for the future.
You talking about A&M's next quarterback?
Yeah. Well, maybe. I wouldn't rule it out. I would not rule it out.
Man, knowing DJ, that'd be a stretch knowing that family.
If we go to Ole Miss here just mentally for a second and think, all right, if because of the money that he has been given and the resources he's been given, and I'm obviously talking about Lane here, and they don't succeed in terms of like an SEC championship game or a playoff berth, which again is conceivable, not probable, but what do you think that administration and that fan base is going to be upset with Lane, or do you think they're going to be really happy with the season he had, given all the money they gave him? And the reason I ask that is if it's
probably like Schlossnagle and the Aggies, right? The Aggies were really happy until Schlossnagle bailed. The night after they won the national, or they finished runner-up, they'll turn on you real quick. That's just the nature of fan bases.
Well, and that's why I think Paul may have something. I mean, if he can't get to that one level that everybody thinks that they deserve to be at, then he's got a good opportunity jumping over there because he can basically try and rebuild the exact same model he did at Ole Miss.
The complication here is if they make that playoff run, then that's going to put them behind the 8 ball. If you hire Lane Kiffin, you are screwed in the portal in year 1. If he makes any kind of playoff run, you're going to miss out on all the December quarterback transfer stuff, and you're going to lose Lagway for sure. So I don't know that the timing is right in that sense. He's going to go to Florida and just be in a mess in year 1, unless he bails and bombs on Ole Miss.
So
they are bringing in Applewhite.
Nah.
What about this? It's an easy conclusion. That's another great deep stat. How do we feel about Dan Lanning? I mean, I just want to throw this question up there because I appreciate throwing people in the chat.
He would have taken Alabama last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
His fortunes are tied to Phil Knight. So I think the question for that is something we don't know, which is when Phil Knight passes, has he set up an NIL endowment? Like seriously, if he has, if he's funded a $25 million, or $40 million endowment for NIL, and you are allowed to take a percentage of it every year, and it's managed like a wealth fund, then he's going to stay at Oregon. If he's just tied to Phil Knight's writing checks to cover individual players on a per capita basis, like a PRN basis is what I meant to say, as needed, then yeah, I'd want to get out of Oregon as quickly as possible and get to a place with a native recruiting base. So, the beauty of what Oregon and Tennessee are experiencing with NIL is that you don't need a native recruiting base anymore. If you'll pony up sufficiently, you can recruit nationally.
Yeah.
However, if that dries up in any way whatsoever, you need to get back. You need to get to a school with a native recruiting base as quickly as possible. The Texases, the Floridas, the Alabamas, the Georgias. That's still going to be the most target-rich environment for you.
Phil Knight is a remarkable sponsor of Oregon football, and we have a remarkable sponsor too in Laura Baker.
Hi, I want to tell you about Laura Baker. If you're looking for a new home in the 512, or even at this point, let's face it, 737 area code, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. As a member of the elite Andy Allen team with Keller Williams, Laura has helped Longhorns find the home of their dreams in Central Texas. Just ask our resident sex symbol, Ian Boyd, who moved all the way from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Laura can help you find what you're looking for in the 512, the 737, or even parts of the 254 and the 210. Just, give her a call at 512-784-0505. Her email is in the description, as well as the rest of her contact details. She's a friend. Give her a call.
All right. I think we're coming up on that time where we need to think about this game we've got this weekend, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, get your picks. What do you want to see? What do you hope to see? We'll start with you, Eric.
I picked 52-3 Texas. I was thinking about 52-0, but what are the chances of that happening? Probably the same as 52-3, but they went 52-0 last week. I just want to see Arch play an efficient, calm, composed game and, get the playmakers involved. I think he's got a good chance to we're going to see Wingo and DeAndre Moore, the players and Jonte Cook, the players that he really built a good rapport with throughout the offseason with getting those second-team reps with those second-team wide receivers, not your average second-team group at quarterback or wide receiver. I think it's a good chance for him to get those guys involved. It's going to be a big day. I think there's probably going to be a special teams or a defensive touchdown as well.
Great. We'll move over to you, Ian. What are your thoughts?
I think I had it 48-9 or something like that. Is that right?
That is what you text me.
Yeah, there you go. I think they might hit a couple runs with their unique offense and get a few field goals. 3 field goals actually feels like a lot in retrospect. Maybe they get something going against the backups or the third-team defense. And I mean, it's a name your score game, so it feels a little futile trying to pick the specific score. It's going to be whatever Sark wants it to be, I think.
Paul, I'd love to hear from you. I'm also curious. I mean, at what point do we see Owen?
Great question. I think it's going to be the same rules that we follow with Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers, which is after a successful third quarter drive. Okay. Then Sark feels comfortable like, hey, you sustained concentration and focus through halftime. You led us on a points bearing drive, and now I can substitute for you. So I think he'll follow that set of rules. And so that's an interesting thing from a handicapping perspective, right? So the thing that made Texas a good cover the past 3 games is when Ewers goes out, Arch comes in. Now when Arch goes out, we have Trey Owens coming in. Promising guy, good future, but he's not quite Arch Manning coming in the fourth quarter and heating up and scoring 17 points for you. So that is really a key in covering a big number like 44.5 or whatever the spread is. So what's my prediction? I think I said 48-3.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's improbable that they get a safety on us like Ian's predicting. That's a bold prediction by Ian, but I respect it. Ian really gets into the numbers and looks at it. He's predicting a safety. So if that doesn't happen, you guys should all bet that. If that doesn't happen, take Ian into account. He wants to be taken into account.
Staying in some betting parlance before we get to you, Justin, really quickly.
I almost want that to happen now just so we can bring this clip back up.
What do we? The punt goes flying over Michael Kern's head. Ian's going to be like, yes.
What do we think the over-under is on Arch's TDs today or tomorrow? Sorry. We'll start with you, Justin. I want to hear your thoughts on the pick, but I'm curious what your thoughts on Arch's performance.
Justin saying gig him. Kick him off this panel.
Oh, Justin.
Over.
You think it's over?
It's going to be over. At this pace, he scores 5 touchdowns a game, guys. So at this pace, it's going to be over.
Dude, that's deep stats for you. Yeah, I got you.
And if he plays for 2 weeks, he could have 15 touchdowns going into the bye week.
It's a fair point.
I like Justin's unfrozen caveman lawyer logic. Like, I'm just a man from East Texas, but he scores 5 touchdowns a game, and we've got a game. So he's going to score 5 touchdowns. I like it.
So Justin's got the over. How do you feel about that, Eric?
Yeah, I'll be going over as well, using my caveman logic as well.
Ian, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt daycare, but what do you take the over on this? Or
I'm gonna go under. I bet you they try to get Jarrett Gibson some action.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm sure he'll get action. I think that's a fair assessment.
How are you getting to 48, Ian?
Runs.
That's a lot of safeties.
That's six 24 safeties. It's 6 touchdowns and 2 field goals, Eric.
3 is a lot for a quarterback.
Already. Yeah, I'll go the under here as well. I'm going to defend my guy Ian. I don't deep dive for life. So yeah, I'm going to go under, and I think we're going to run the ball in the red zone because I think teams are getting tired of watching the ball get thrown into the end zone in the red area. And so I think we're going to run it in with Jarrett Gibson. I think Trey Wisner is going to be shot out of a cannon. And I think Colin Page, obviously, that's their closer. And he's going to drop a 40, 45-yard run late in this game.
All right, Ian, Justin, let's get to your picks. Where do you see this one ending up?
They only threw to the end zone like one time with Arch. They're not throwing at the end zone. Arch is throwing it to guys, and they're running to the end zone. I like that over because it's big playmakers. That's Arch comes in there and wants to score, and he does it efficiently. I got Texas winning 55-6 because I do think they're going to cover that 44.5, 45-point spread. I didn't know about the over-under. I think that's hilarious. That margin for error would scare any sharp. But 55-6, I think I'm with Ian. I think ULM will get a couple field goals. They'll hit a couple plays. I mean, General Booty, guys, come on. And we all know pro Booty.
Yeah, big supporter of that particular namesake. All right, gents. So it is looking like all of you have chosen Texas in spite of the analysis that we provided at the top of the game. So the top of the show. So that's good. It's clear to me that you've learned nothing. I really appreciate you all being here today. We've got Inside the Program. Please check that out. And tomorrow we will be live an hour before the game with our pregame and directly after the game on this channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. Well, Sugar Daddy's coming in. Let's give him another $2 hit here. Which the young people here have a breakout game? We'll throw that to who do you see having? And obviously a big Gibson fan, but who do you think is having the big game here, Ian?
I definitely think they want to get Jared Gibson going more. Colin Simmons as well. All the big three, Simmons, Wingo, Gibson. I think those guys, they want to get lots of reps because they are truly elite game-changing talents that need to be developed.
Give me Ty-Anthony Smith. They run the ball a lot. Give me Ty-Anthony Smith on defense.
Kobe Black gets his first pick as a Horn.
Ooh.
On one of their 5 passes, huh?
That's why it's only 5.
That's this is rarefied air.
If anymore, they'd all get picks.
Oh man, Ian's got them predicted for 3 scoring drives. Justin's got them thrown around all over the place. Oh my gosh.
So Eric and Ian stole all the good young cats. I noticed I emphasized Eric and Ian, Justin. Jordan Johnson Rubel has a tackle for loss.
Okay.
Boom. Book it.
Boom.
I wanted to one thing that we've been doing in the past.
Is he still on the roster?
On social media and sometimes our pregame is we've given Ian the opportunity to pick the OU game. And this is a fun OU game. So just if we have maybe a slight diversion from the ULM this week, I'd love to hear obviously Ian's thoughts and the rest of the lads, what their thoughts are on the University of Oklahoma versus the University of Tennessee at Gaylord Memorial Stadium. What are you thinking here, Ian?
It's kind of unfortunate that it takes place more or less at the same time as the Texas game, because that's a pretty compelling game to watch on a number of levels. I think Brent Venables versus Josh Heupel, 2 guys whose careers were derailed in the 2010s because Bob Stoops' nepotism with his brother at Oklahoma. That matchup is really interesting. Brent Venables defense, Josh Heupel offense. That's pretty much the only part of this game that to me seems competitive or interesting. Oklahoma is a train wreck on offense, playing NFL players on defense. And I think my score is going to be like Tennessee 41, Oklahoma 20.
Okay. All right. Where do you see this going, Justin?
I like Tennessee. I think they're better. I don't think they're not going to be ready for Tennessee's defense. Jackson Arnold thought he had a hard time with Temple in Houston. Wait till he meets James Pierce. I like Tennessee 35-13.
Eric?
Big mismatch, Tennessee D-line versus OU offensive line. I don't think Jackson Arnold's going to be able to use his legs like he has been. Probably going to turn him over a time or two. I like 38-13 Tennessee. That's definitely, I'll be staying up late after we do our post-game show right here on this channel for Texas. I'll be watching that game and diving in and probably enjoying it quite a bit.
Take us home, Paul.
Justin, do you have a lozenge in? Okay. Is it a Jolly Rancher?
I have a giant ulcer at the bottom of my tooth from a broken tooth.
Dude, that stinks. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm crying with every word.
Chewing on
pistachio nuts, you're supposed to take them out of the shell.
It's okay.
You say that now.
I know. I'm sorry. I should have told you before. I like Oklahoma to win big. Nah, I'm just kidding. I like Tennessee. They're going to cover, and they are going to cover with margin. Game might start a little slow because I think Brent Venables is going to throw the kitchen sink at a young quarterback on the road. And this is Nico's Imaleva's first real road game. So that's going to be something to pay attention to. Two other things, obviously Tennessee D-line versus the wreck of the OU offensive line. OU is getting back 2 receivers. They're getting back Andrew Anthony and Nick Anderson, which is going to help them a little bit. Other thing to look for, OU lost one of their corners. Their other corner, Woody, who they think is amazing, is not amazing. And Tennessee is very good at getting ISOs far out where there's no help, especially if you're going to help with the running game against Dylan Sampson, which they're going to need to. And they're going to throw up some 50-50 balls that I think are going to turn into 80-20 balls. So I like Tennessee to win 33-16.
Chiming in on that, they also love to get a boundary slot isolated on a boundary safety. And it's usually like Squirrel White is the Tennessee receiver. He runs a sub 11 100 meter. And Oklahoma's safety over there is normally Robert Spears Jennings, who's 220 pounds. So
their little big safety experiment, I think, is going to get exposed if they don't just go with Bowman and
Bowen.
Yeah, Bowen. Those are the guys I would want on the field that could actually give Tennessee problems because they can cover so much ground.
One of the ways in which this game is super not entertaining, except to Texas fans for Schadenfreude, is if they just get a couple of those matchups early and hit them for long touchdowns. And then they're up like 14-0 in an instant, 17-3 in an instant. And then it's, just live it up.
I want to address this comment by JW. There's a secret I think I can probably admit to just this very small selection of people here. I graduated high school in Oklahoma, and so a lot of the text exchanges that have been going on this week have been less than flattering in terms of my former classmates' opinion on Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to take them behind the woodshed and work them like a part-time job. I have no idea what the exact score is going to be. I'm going to go with a lot to a little. I do agree with Ian. I think the top of the game is probably going to, as they're kind of feeling each other out a little bit, keep it a little bit close, because I do think Venables needs this. Frankly, I think this is a big need for him in this game, and I think Heupel's going to come in and get a lot of redemption, which I think he deserves. If there was one player, Ian, that you could think of, like on that Oklahoma side, that could completely change the trajectory of the game, who do you think that might be?
Nick Anderson, their wide receiver that's coming back